what is your experience with mental health?
Yeah, my experience with mental health really is that I've always thought that I had a pretty good, I was pretty level-headed. I normally had good mental health, but I remember probably about 3 years ago now, I sort of lost a job that I had been in for a long period of time, and it sort of, I felt like I lost my identity. That Jeff Davis, who did this certain role, I did certain status, I didn't have it anymore. And I remember that I was having sleepless nights, and I just didn't feel good about myself. And I actually went and phoned a doctor up because I needed to get signed off at the time. It was before I actually left. And I was talking about how I felt and whatever. And then he said to me, he said, I'm going to have to ask you this. He said, have you ever considered taking your own life? And I went, and firstly, I was really, really upset. And I felt a bit ashamed. And I felt ashamed because I thought that this doctor was judging me on having poor mental health and saying, did you ever consider taking your life? And I didn't and never have. But I think for me, it was that realisation that I was in a place where I needed help to be able to feel better about myself. But actually going and asking for help was maybe one of the biggest steps. And I think that asking for that help, and not just from the doctor, I didn't have any chemical help through tablets, although people may need that. It was the reference to talking therapies, talking with the family, particularly talking to my wife, who was fantastic during that period of time. And so I think I normally have quite good mental health, but I think in life you have troughs and peaks where you might have really good mental health, but something might happen, a breakup of a relationship, something happens at work, just something happens in life which then gives you really poor mental health. And I think what you really need to know is what are your coping mechanisms to be able to help you through those peaks and troughs?
I'd say until I was about 20, so a few years ago, I never really suffered from any mental health issues. But then, since then, there's been points where I've been suffered from anxiety, and I think it's often when I fixate around certain topics, certain aspects that are happening in my life, and they become bigger than they perhaps are in reality, and it's hard to get that perspective of how important other things are in life that do make you happy, and it can control everything in your mind. But I think as a result of that, it's made me so much more aware of mental health and how it does affect everyone. I almost thought I was never going to suffer from any mental health problems and immune to it, but it's made me really interested in working in that area, and since then I've been involved with programs that have been supporting people's mental health, whether it's mental health football sessions or having mental health champions in the county, and that's been a real passion of mine.
So personally, my experience would be, I suppose like a lot of people, it's fluctuated over the years. Different things have stressed me out over the time, whether it be exams or moving house. Now more it's my children and sorting them out from day to day. So yeah, up and down I suppose would be a good answer for that.
So I feel like I've been quite lucky myself. I wouldn't say I've ever experienced kind of poor mental health, particularly myself. I think everyone has low moments. But I have seen firsthand the impact that, kind of poor mental health has on others, friends, and in particular family that have been affected by it in various different stages of my life. I've seen the impact it can have, and that's why I think it's so important to draw attention to it and raise awareness and ensure that there's a conversation to be had about mental health. And is one of the reasons in particular kind of the experiences that I've seen kind of family and friends go through is why I'm so passionate about ensuring that young people in youth football in Kent have access to kind of mental health support, and in particular mental health awareness of what good mental health looks like through kind of the work that mental health champions do within clubs and leagues in the county.
And what do you do to improve your mental health?
Well, I think there's a number of things that I would do to improve my mental health. One of the things is I try to keep fit. I try to go to the gym. It gives me some thinking time or to mull over some problems I may have, or mull over some issues and try and find some resolutions to some of those issues. I do running and sit on the bike, and that's what I sort of do. That's a chance for me to think about the day and think about what I need to do. Talking to family, particularly to people close to you, and really trying to understand whether the way you're behaving is a little bit different, whether they see anything different about the way you go about things, because that helps you recognise if you are maybe having an episode of relatively poor mental health. But I think it's keep trying to understand yourself, understand your body, understand your mind, and when you really begin to start understanding that, that's when you can begin to identify when you might be suffering from, not the great mental health that you normally would like.
It's really important to have people around you as a support network who you're comfortable discussing your mental health with, who you're happy to open up to. And I think for me, if there's certain, as I said, mine was often around fixation on certain things that would make me unhappy. And if that was something happening in work, then it would be about ensuring that I do stuff outside of work to take my mind off of it, to make me happy, that it doesn't just become the only thing in my life, and making sure that I am still doing things that I enjoy, and I'm not just fixated on any one thing.
So to improve my mental health, I like to go for walks, spend time in nature. I like to go and watch football, which sometimes can be a stress reliever as well as a stress causer, and spending time outdoors and time with my children.
So one of the key things I do, and whether I'm working, whether it's a day off, whether it's something I'm doing at the weekend, I always make sure I give myself an hour for some exercise. And that in particular is just going for a walk. I'll stick a podcast in, plan a bit of a route and just walk for an hour. Usually for me, it's around where I live. Make sure I get some kind of fresh air, walk along the sea, put myself in an environment where there's going to be other people around, but I don't necessarily have to talk to people, and just switch off and kind of have that time to reflect on what I've been doing that particular day or that week, and just have that as a bit of a moment for me to reflect and think ahead and plan and do different things, and just a little bit of self-care really.